Okay, so now that we have taken all of our pictures, it's time to go through and select which ones we want, or just which one. I got all of these. These are different pictures than what I showed. I did this at a separate time. It's a long story. But I picked this picture. Excellent, excellent facial expression. And I picked this picture just because I wanted to use this form as a silhouette. So, oh, my brain just melted. So now we want not to select these two, to edit these in Photoshop or just open them. And Photoshop is here. I already did this before, and we're not going to do anything with them right now. Next, we're going to start a new project in Adobe After Effects and make a new composition. This I'm calling Moon and Clouds. And the resolution is 2600 by 4000. So, to begin with, you don't need Lightroom or Photoshop or After Effects. Well, maybe After Effects. There are a lot of alternatives that you can choose. There's a lot of Photoshop alternative apps, like I think Affinity is one. There's also GIMP. You can find lots of free alternatives, and I'm making the clouds in After Effects. You could also use Premiere Pro to make them, or you could just download an image of clouds off of Google Images that fits the resolution that you want. I'm just using these because I'm comfortable with them and I have them and they're pretty powerful, so that's why I'm doing this. So now we're going to from now on we're going to do a lot of work with layers, and it's a bit difficult to describe if you've never worked with them before. It'll kind of sort itself out a little bit as we go along. So what I'm doing right now is I'm going to make a black layer. See, the color is black. And this is going to be all solid. And we're going to call this clouds. And then we're going to search for an effect called fractal noise. And we're going to put that onto this layer. That's going to give us this noisy effect. And for this menu system looks kind of really intimidating, and there are a lot of options. A lot of this is just messing around with the numbers and settings to find something that you like. Right now it also doesn't look a lot like clouds, but you can tweak things around and get them how you like them. So, like, a lot of these are also very self-explanatory. Like, you see contrast here. If you bring the contrast up really high, like 700, you see there's not a lot of gray left. It's mostly just black and white, and if you put it down to 0, then it's just going to be a flat gray. So I'm going to bump that up to around 140. And you see rotation here. You can rotate it around as well. Turn that to 0. And the scale. This looks like a television noise. So for this we're going, yeah, scaling it up a lot. And then here, offset turbulence, just basically, so this is the x coordinate here and this is the y coordinate, and we're just switching what part is in the frame, if that makes any sense. And what I wanted to do here is get the moon inside kind of a darker spot so that it can contrast with its brightness well to the blackness. I'm not describing this very well. Surrounded by blackness so that its brightness, so that the moon's brightness is a little more attractive. I don't know. I'm not explaining this super well. So now that's good. What we're going to do now is we're going to put an effect onto, or an adjustment onto this clouds layer, and this is called curves. And what this is this upper right corner is, think of this as just pure white, and down here is pitch black. You see we can click this and drag it. So if we drag the blacks up, then it just becomes white. And if we drag the whites down, then it just becomes black. So you can kind of bend this line a little bit to adjust the tones. You see this kind of shape a lot in photography, and After Effects just froze. That looks good. So now what do I want to do? I want to put a mask on this, and what a mask is a closed shape, and it can hide or reveal certain parts of an image or an effect. So, for example, it's being slow. You'll see what I mean once this starts to close. See? So it kind of just took what's inside the shape and it just hid everything else. So now you're sitting there like, that's a really sharp drop off, and it wasn't that sharp before in your picture. Well, that's because we haven't adjusted the feather. What the feather does is it creates a gradient along these lines, and I'm going to increase it to 1000. See, it makes a gradient. Oh, I'm gonna keep it at 1000, but just to show you how it works. That's 100. So many zeros. I can click off a little bit and see if we like it or not. I think this is a little bit blurry. I don't know why. It's usually a lot sharper. So I'm going to say that's good, at least for the time being. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take a picture of the moon and we're going to drop it in here. And you could take this picture yourself if you wanted to, but having a large image of the moon very, very sharp is something that would probably cost a lot of money. And I don't have the correct equipment to do that myself. Okay, so there it is. And now we're going to take the scale down and drag it to roughly where we want it. Now, it's still surrounded by a black square, and the way to get rid of that square is changing the blending mode to screen. And what that's going to do is it's going to get rid of all of the pitch black, and it's going to replace it with transparency. So you're only left with the moon, which is what we want. I'm going to reset this view. And you can see there are a lot of different blending modes, and they all do kind of similar things. So I think that looks okay. I might want to adjust the size a little bit. I don't want it too big, or else the proportions of the frame are going to feel off. I think that's good. So now the moon itself looks a little like the same tone of the clouds, which we don't want because we want the moon to be the brightest. So we're going to search for brightness and contrast effect, and we're going to apply that to our moon layer, and we're going to take the brightness setting and we're going to bring that up. And you see the moon's getting a little bit brighter. We also might want to make the clouds a little bit brighter as well, just to kind of have it blended in more. Looks okay. Now something that I might want to do is make another mask on the clouds, and I'm going to subtract it just so that we have more darkness around the moon itself. And again, we're going to bring the feather up. Yeah. Actually, that might not have. I might want to do a little bit smaller. I haven't done this specific effect before, so I don't know exactly what settings I need. This might take a little while. Okay, so that looks good. What we're going to do now is go to File, Save As. Okay, and then what we're going to do is go into Composition at this top menu here, go to Save Frame As, Photoshop Layers. Yes. And now we should be able to close Adobe After Effects, and we can put this directly into Photoshop. And then the rest of the work is from Photoshop. We will have to go onto a couple of websites and download things. But in terms of apps, we're just staying in Photoshop from now on. And computers being a little bit laggy. So we're going to File, Open, and then we're going to navigate to our Clouds and Moon Photoshop layer. And immediately we're going to go to File, Save As, Movie Poster. Yes. Okay. So now you see this looks a lot different, and there are these white and gray squares around everywhere, and there's this black square on the moon, which wasn't there in After Effects. Remember, in After Effects, we also applied all of these on top of a black layer, and in here, in our Layers panel, we don't see any black layer. So we're going to make a new layer, and we're going to call it black. And then we're going to press B to get our brush up, and make sure that we have black selected at the front here, and flow 100%, opacity 100%, and we're going to click on the circle, make sure the hardness is also at 100. You can also adjust the size up here, or a shortcut is to use the left and right brackets on your keyboard. And we're just going to click and drag, or hold and drag. And now we have this layer back. So now we're going to save it again, just for redundancy, and we're going to leave that and come back to this. Now here, what we want to do is make me completely black and make the background completely white. And to do that, we're going to make a selection, and a selection is again a closed shape like a mask, but anything that's inside of it you can edit, and then anything outside of it won't be affected. And there are a lot of tools in Photoshop to help you make selections, and I'm going to choose to use the magnetic lasso tool. And what that does is when I click, like say I click here and I drag the cursor around the circle, then it will detect the edges and it'll put the edge of the selection around the circle. Or at least it's going to try to. It's not always 100% accurate. And then we're going to press enter, and then see this circle pops up. So if we take another brush and we brush around the edges, you can see that inside it is getting painted, but outside it doesn't. So we want to make that kind of selection around me. Or at least we're going to try to. We'll see what ends up happening. Okay, so we just finished our rough selection. Now you see we still have spaces in here that we don't want to be selected. and also up here in between this frame on the backpack. So we're going to go back now with the manual lasso tool, and we're going to fix those, and we're also going to clean up the edges that the magnetic lasso tool missed. Now if I was to try to make another selection right now, regularly, you see that would work, but we just lost the selection there. So what we can do is we can press Alt while pressing on the left mouse button, and you can see that subtracts from what we have. And if you press Shift while you click, then that can add. So that we're going to be using Alt and Shift to clean up the selection. Okay, so we just finished our selection. Something that I want to point out is here, since we're making a silhouette, we can just kind of cut away parts that we don't really want. And since it's just going to be black, then nobody's going to see that this was ever here to begin with. And also with here, if I wanted to kind of change the effect and have maybe a little thinner boot that went up higher, then we could do that too. Actually, I think I might do that. Just because I initially wanted to make it look more like combat boots to begin with, which I don't have. Ah. Okay, so now we're going to press B again, make sure black is at the front, increase the size of our brush, and paint. And now what we're going to do is select the inverse, which means it selects everything between this black shape and the borders of the image. So now we're going to change to white and paint, or you could also use your eraser tool, but the eraser's going black, which we don't want. So we're going to continue painting. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing to this image. Okay. So now we are... Actually, now I'm going to fix up this shape a little bit because we have some time left. So the way that I'm going to put this on is it's going to be the magazine and the grip and such. The bottom of it's going to be facing down, so you won't see the top rails and the sights and whatnot. And the reason I took the sights off is because one of them was up and one of them was down, so I didn't really want to bother fixing that. What I'm doing right now is I noticed that the spacing of my brush was a little wide, so I'm bringing the spacing down so it's a little bit more of a smooth line as opposed to a series of half circles. Alrighty, so we're almost done. Well, we're not almost done, we're probably more than halfway done. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put both of these images into here as layers. So we're going to click on this layer icon and drag it up to movie poster project and let go. And say yes. Off the bat it's initially really big. If you press Ctrl T, then you get this option to transform the dimensions, and holding Shift while dragging a corner towards the center makes the image smaller while keeping all of its proportions, and can roughly position this over the moon. Now we can go into this layers blending mode and change it to darken, and that'll get rid of the black, that'll get rid of the white. Say yes. This is a little bit large in this composition. I might want to change how large I am and how large the moon is. It looks good. So now we're going to take the rifle and do almost the same thing. Changing the blend mode to darken, except now we're going to go into this edit panel and go to transform and flip horizontal. Press Ctrl T again. I want this to look like it's hanging off of my backpack. Something like that's okay. Except that I also don't want it to interfere with the part of the external frame of the backpack, so. Okay, that's good. I don't know if that's a little bit big in comparison to me, but you know. Now we have that done. the next part that we need to do is, actually before that, yeah, stop. I'm going to rename both of these layers to me and to rifle, and now we need to make the rope that I'm supposedly swinging from. So for that, I'm actually going to change the workspace to, let's see if this has it. Yeah, whatever, still there. We're going to select the pen tool by pressing P, and then using this bit of the hammock that I had left over from our selection before, we can use that as a guide to know what angle this should be at. That looks okay. Now we're going to grab our direct selection tool, and we can manipulate this path. I don't really like right now how it's so curvy, so I can kind of make it a little more straight. Yeah, it looks okay. Just confirming that this angle looks good down here. Yeah, it's okay. It's not the best. You know what? We can actually change that by just dragging it up. Come on. Yeah. So that looks good. This part up here is just going into darkness, so we don't need to make it extend out of the frame. If you do this initially, it might look like this or something like it, and that's because you have fill equipped instead of the stroke up here in the settings. So you want to select this and this to make a black stroke and no fill, because the fill is going to, as it's self-explanatory, it takes the inside curve and fills it with whatever color you select here, and we don't want that for this project. So now we can increase the width of this little black line. First we want to, okay, hold on, stop, increase the width. So here you can, this is the menu that you can, or the bar that you can use to increase or decrease the stroke. And I found before that 5 pixels worked reasonably well. I accidentally made another shape. So that's that line. And now we're going to imagine that my boots are contacting around here. So that's where we're going to make the second line. And like something like this. If you wanted to, you can also make it loop back around. Actually, maybe not. I don't know that much about repelling, so I don't know a lot about the equipment, but I see that sometimes they have slack like hanging around their belt and whatnot. So you could do that if you wanted. But for right now, we're just going to have it curve out of frame and make sure it's selected and bring the stroke up to 5 pixels. And those are the ropes. So we're going to rename shape 1 into top rope, and we are going to, hold on a second. We're going to rename shape 2 into bottom rope. So now these are all of our layers that we need for the background, or background aesthetics part. So we could just keep going forwards as is, but I think that my layers panel is getting a little bit messy, so I'm going to create a group, and all of these are inside this group, and I'm just going to nickname this graphics. And the group is basically just a folder, so it keeps things a little bit tidier. So now we need to work on text. I actually probably should have done this before, but I'm going to open my first project just so I have a bit of a reference for the fonts and whatnot. So here we're going to make a big piece of text. I switch to the text tool by pressing T on the keyboard and opening our brush settings here. I'm going to change the font to Microsoft Himalaya, and what size did I have here? Let me see. I had about 300. And this is going to be in all caps. And I'm going to move this more around to the center, and I'm going to have the paragraph settings centered. And we're going to separate the text out a little bit, like that. You're going to make sure that you have your layer selected, press Ctrl T, and I'm going to make sure that this is centered on the page. Okay. Whew. Now, for the rest of the font in the text, hold on again. Yep. Okay, so we're going to download 2 more fonts, and yeah. So we're going to go to this website called Fonts to You, and you're going to, or we're going to, I don't know, download this font called Steel Tongs. And down here you can see when you press regular letters like A, B, C, D, E, it gives this font, not this font, it gives the pre-existing symbols, say written by, casting by, so that makes it easier so you don't need to do that yourself, and it saves you a lot of time. And here there's another font called SF Movie Poster that's just the letters A is A, B is B, etc. And you download this, and when you navigate to where it's downloaded on your computer, and then it's in the zipped file as is. I already have it downloaded and installed, so I'm not going to re-download it. And then to your zipped folder, you're going to extract it, and then you're going to be left with this regular folder, and then double click on here. No, this is like on Mac. I'm on PC right now, and then you're going to click install, and then it should install into Photoshop automatically. You can even have Photoshop open, and then you go into your fonts menu and you just type in Steel Tongs, and then it should pop up. So the way that I'm going to compose this is I'm going to have the big list down here, and then I'm going to have 4 movie company logos down here, and then I'm going to have the 4 lead actors up here. So for this, I want to be in my movie poster font, and I'm looking at this font size. Looks like around 130. Yeah, 130 looks good, and I'm going to reduce the spacing between the characters, and we're going to make the list of people first. So I don't have an actual list of real people because this isn't for a real movie, so I don't have an actual list. So I looked up this random name generator website, and I'm just going to copy and paste these names onto here. Okay, that's good for now. I think I might have to go back later and change this a little bit because it looks like it's gonna. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Okay, so the thing is with this movie poster text, all of the characters are already capitalized. So I can actually fit a bit more in. So I'm just going to continue down the list until it looks full enough. That was a bit of a mistake on my part. I should have caught that earlier. It looked a little bit weird. Okay, and now we're going to switch to seal tongs, and we're just going to go through our alphabet in front of each name. I think that was everything. So now we have all of the names and all of the titles we want down here. So we're going to decrease the spacing. I'm gonna take some names out here just to make some more space. Even though I just took out some of the more critical positions in a movie, just for the sake of demonstration. Okay, so now we're going to go through and find what font size and steel tongs matches up with the font size in the SF movie poster. Looks like 83 works. So we're gonna copy the number 83, and then we're gonna go through all of the seal tongues letters and paste number 23. So now I just press Control T again, and I'm just gonna size up this poster, and make it look proportional to everything else. I'm getting a little bit tired. So next we want to put in the movie logos. And I don't think I have them. No. I don't have them in this folder, so I'm gonna have to go select this one, this one, this one, and this one. Oh, this one. Yeah. You're just going to click and drag them in. Nice and simple. And just going to drop them down at the bottom here. Now there's something in Photoshop called a ruler, which obviously there's a ruler. And if you click on a ruler and you click and drag it down, then it gives you a guide, which is a blue line. And it turns out there already are a lot, so I'm just going to get rid of some. I think this was already from the After Effects from when we just imported it. So now I'm dragging all of these logos onto this guide, and I'm going to bring another one down, and this is going to be the top. And I'm going to size them to fit. That's good. And then I want to space them somewhat evenly. Okay, so those look good. The last step is to make the lead actors. I'm going to check how much time I have left. I have 21 minutes, so that should be enough to finish. I'm going to put these logos into a different group, and I'm just going to call them logos. And for the lead actors, yeah, I'm just going to go and copy paste some more. Make sure you're not on steel tongs when you're copy pasting names, or else it's going to end up like this. It's not going to be pretty. So make sure you're in your movie poster font. And let's say 130. No, that's too small. 150. 200. 200 is a good one. So now we want to make distance between the first and the last name. So it looks like 175 is okay. Yep. Okay, and now we're going to rasterize all of these layers, which means that we're turning it from a Photoshop text layer into a collection of pixels. And we're doing that so that it will be easier for us to line them up. Why isn't it allowing me to move you? There you go. Those look like they're all equal distances apart. And this is the end result. So I didn't spend a super long amount of time on this, making it look really pretty. This was more of just a proof of concept. This is how he did it thing. You could spend a lot more time on it, and I could have as well, making sure everything looked aesthetically perfect and all. But this is how I did it, and hope you enjoyed. Click like if you liked it. Click subscribe if you really liked it. I don't know how to do this, so bye.